Hello, everyone. This is Ethan Lassiter from DP's West Region Planning Team again. Thank you all for coming to Austin's March Invest Southwest Roundtable. A lot to discuss and go over, but actually first I'll pass it to Commissioner Cox with some opening remarks.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. And I'm feeling really good about the milestone that Austin passed last week with the awarding of the commission, the Invest Southwest Commission, to a pretty amazing team, Austin United Alliance. And I am excited not only by the team that was chosen, but by the incredible response that we've received with 7 proposals and for Chicago Avenue and the Laramie Bank site in particular. And I felt that it was a reminder of just what a journey we've been on to make this happen. And I went back to some of the earlier moments when I was introduced to Austin, and very specifically, and I believe many of you were in attendance at the kickoff meeting we had at the Karen Center, and to remember that was January 18th of 2020, and it was there where, after hearing from literally hundreds of people, we understood where this initiative, Invest Southwest, is going to land. We were given a focus on the Laramie Bank, that the community said, this is where the city should start. And for me, the engagement process that led to these really high quality proposals all started there. And from there, everything that we've done has been to try to channel what the community wanted to see come out of this, and to see the final proposals being so close to the community's vision suggested me that the community did well in articulating their desires, having that be folded into the very process that led to an amazing outpouring of developer interests and community wealth building and job creation, and an amazing amenity that I think will be the anchor for the work to come. So having done our work well up to bring us to this date, I think it's an imperative that we continue to do our work well. And now is when that engagement continues to, I think, be deepened, so that the outcome as this goes under construction is deeply identifies with Austin and what Soul City, Chicago Avenue, is trying to do. So I just thank everyone for their participation in this process and your patience as we refine this work that will lead to, I think, a catalytic investment for Chicago Avenue. So I'm anxious to let the process move forward, to hear from you, and I'll turn it back over to Ethan. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Hope my audio is figured out too. All right, so very briefly, wanted to run through some of the kind of rules of engagement of this call. As you'll notice, everyone is currently muted, but you can use your raise hand function to be called on. Because of raising hands, if you're calling on a cell phone, which I don't think anyone is right now, you'll only be able to listen. And again, I don't see any issues, but if you're able to rename yourself if needed and identify yourself when you start speaking. So again, what we hope to cover today, we have a larger RFP process review, how we got to this point, and then covering kind of the winning proposal And then really, I'd like to focus on this future engagement work and brainstorming how that could happen. So starting with the RFP process, how do we get to this point? As the commissioner was stating, the RFP process really started with the Invest Southwest kickoff conversations in January of 2020. Some initial questions and comments that came up again were, what buildings in your neighborhood have special meaning to you? How do we best build community wealth? How do we create spaces and places where residents want to spend time? And how do we emphasize arts and culture that reflect the community that they live in? Again, part of creating an RFP or kicking off Invest Southwest was, how do we implement or advance plans and projects and engagement that's already happened? Two prominent examples from Austin and 4 Chicago Avenue are the 2018 Liskin Austin Coming Together Plan, and then the 2020 Austin Avenue Soul City Corridor Plan. There are elements of both of those that can be taken. So I've highlighted some of these, and these obviously floating the RFP have been shared throughout the process, but pointing out in the Austin Forward Together plan, there are numerous issue areas, including kind of the community narrative around Austin. How do you, again, improve the community narrative and have cultural spaces that reflect the community? Obviously, a new development project is more explicitly tied to a lot of economic development goals stated in that plan, housing as well, and even civic engagement. I think there's elements to be fleshed out, but again, the roundtables and community presentations ended up being kind of a natural segue coming from a 2018 plan into what was implemented in 2020, and we're carrying forward into 2021. This was shared again at the summer's RFP visioning session, but noting some previous development priorities noted on Chicago Avenue from those plans, from stakeholders, from engagement to that point from the summer. So again, desire for kind of business, entrepreneurial support, small business support, workforce and labor support. And then what attracts people to the corridor? What are we looking for? It's arts, entertainment and attractions that reflect the culture and the people of Austin. And then other goals or interests, food and dining. There's an idea about more residential uses, have more active uses on the corridor. So all of this work fed into the June 2020 visioning workshop, where multiple sites along Chicago Avenue between Cicero and Austin Boulevard were identified. 3 were discussed at this workshop because they were larger sites. And from those, we worked with a pro bono architect providing assistance to create concepts and multiple versions of development on each of these properties. One of those, the central site, which is partially cut off, but that's the Laramie State Bank. There's a site right by Cicero on the eastern site and the western site by Mayfield, closer to Austin Boulevard. So the first RFP, Laramie State Bank, was selected both for its prominence and kind of the aspirational goals of the site, but also for some challenges of the project. The building is in some rough condition, and it won't last much longer without new redevelopment and new reinvestment in that space. Again, as a entirely privately owned site, the property ownership was on board with the RFP, and we've been in communication with them throughout this process. So this was a large part of step 1 of the RFP, where we were developing and releasing this, refining this at roundtables, at the June visioning workshop, to release an RFP that we hope and believe advances or coalesces all the goals of community plans, of what we heard from engagement for the RFP process. We got 7 responses, as the commissioner was stating. All of these really match so many intentions of the RFP, and we fully believe are well above what would have been received if this same process occurred, 3 years ago or something, or an RFP, a general RFP was released. So we had our evaluation. In January, we had developer presentations to the community where they presented their proposals, got feedback, were asked questions. And again, the community could provide additional feedback and comments throughout that time and leading up to kind of a decision. And now we're at where a developer has been selected, and we can begin to engage, refine, and then internally, obviously, kind of negotiate details of the project. So again, noting the same evaluation criteria used by the city's staff internally as an RFP, a legal document, and then that we ask the community to use in our kind of reflection and choices. The first bucket being, how does the proposal build community wealth? That was a big focus on this RFP process and of Invest Southwest generally. How do we promote small business, local hiring? How do we have developers who look like, know, understand, and reflect the communities they are working in? And then two, a more general professional competence, the design quality, the professional experience and competence of the developers and the development team and businesses selected. And then, is the proposal economically feasible and financially feasible? This was all presented at the community presentation in January. We got feedback and Q&A responses immediately at that event. People followed up with email comments to myself or to DPD's general email address. There was also an online survey sent out where we tried to track comments, including what excites or concerns you about a project, your thoughts on the community wealth building element, and the design overall, the design and overall comments. A word about the survey, because it's been mentioned a number of times. We got 20 and 27 responses for the 2 nights, which we realize is a fairly small sample size for a community as large as Austin, and is a fairly small sample size in general. But the survey is intended as a tool to gather additional input. It obviously is not the single determinant of the winner. Even within that, I do want to highlight some other things that came up. Of the people who actually wrote detailed comments about each of the proposals, and not just kind of good, bad, but feedback about the proposals. A lot of projects were close to 50-50 positive comments and negative comments. Some were more like 60-40. And then there was one that actually got essentially double or 3 times as many positive comments as negative comments when people talked about the details of that proposal. And that was the Austin United Alliance proposal. So more people wrote more positive things about that project than any other in the survey, which again is not the deciding tool, but it is one of many ways of getting feedback. So for its community wealth building components, for the quality of its design and development team, its sensitivity and connection to the community, and its response from community input and feedback, the Austin United Alliance proposal was selected, led by Heartland Housing, led by Executive Director Earl Chase, and Oak Park Regional Housing Center, led by Executive Director Athena Williams. Shown here are additional team members, noting the design team, construction team, engineering firms as well. Reminding everyone of kind of proposed uses for the site. They're suggesting a rehabilitation of the existing Laramie State Bank building, adding a new bank branch, as well as getting the Chicago Blues Museum that they have an LOI with. They're trying to create a new cafe run by a Austin native, a coworker and community co-working space for entrepreneurs and small business development, a obviously public plaza, rain garden, and green roof deck. Maybe less so the rain garden and green roof, obviously good features. The public plaza being a part of what was intended in the RFP and what really all respondents included, but we think there's a lot of good suggestions included in this response. And then community space and public multi-purpose rooms as well. Some renderings that have been shared previously, but just noting for anyone newer to the call or newer to this situation. And then again, a rendering or suggestion of what could occur at the site. So with that, our goal or my intention with this meeting was to jump into how do we structure engagement going forward. I think there was, came up last time, not just how do we engage the community, but how does the community help shape the engagement process? So the intention of this meeting is actually to start kind of brainstorming that a little bit more. We have a framework and a plan, but I want to discuss how we add to this, how we tweak it, how we add more people to the team in a sense to make sure this is the best project for Austin. So there are a couple of dates right now in March, obviously April and May check-ins. So I'll note first in March, this idea of community connections. I know the Austin United team is already doing outreach, I guess you'd say kind of behind the scenes in a sense. But I think a question that the city wants to help facilitate in their conversations is who can we add to this team? We can perhaps release surveys, but how do we kind of reach community members who have an important voice in this and just generally keep everyone informed? So who needs to be involved in economic development conversations and what skills and knowledge can they add to that team as we're building what engagement should look like. Noting that we're in conversation with Alderman Mitz and presenting at her committees coming up next week, community meetings. We're familiar with many, obviously, Austin stakeholder organizations. Many of you are on this call, have been a part of Invest Southwest thus far. We know there are others as well. So that whole list has been sent to the developers, and they're obviously already familiar with a lot of you already. But we're working on that list with them. And a number of people have obviously already emailed either DPD's email address or me personally, asking to be more connected or more involved. So we're sending those on as well. But that's the first kind of ask for right now and for March is how do we shape our outreach to more and more people? The idea being that we could then use some of that feedback to create kind of larger community forums and engagements. Again, the idea being that these could be evenings, they're larger public forums, and those could be multiple events. They can be spaced out, but again, that's kind of open for conversation. We think there's kind of suggesting some topic areas. How do we address the design of the project or any tweaks that are desired? Tenants or business opportunities, events and cultural programming that we can kind of brainstorm for that. And there are others, so that's what I'm hoping to discuss. And again, thinking about what times or days are best. For community events, we're assuming evenings are better, but open to considering all of that. And then on the right side of this, outreach and strategies for that, and then preferred formats, I think are very important. So I know there's a lot of people who already do a lot of outreach and have a lot of lists. Social media can be used, but there's been a lot of advancement in outreach and building workshops like this during a pandemic, but we want to do even better now. So we're asking for how do we keep growing this? And with that, as I said in the beginning, the rules of engagement, I think if you raise your hand, you should be able to unmute. So looking for thoughts about, does this perfectly fit everything you desire, and how can we tweak this to make it even better? I'm wondering, oh, okay, yep. Juan Teague.
So I think one of the things, my first meeting was the last meeting. I think one of the things that to assist business owners is, I guess, with the list, because like even now, a lot of people that's on Chicago Avenue and 5900 block, they didn't know like this roundtable was even happening. So I guess one of the questions is, where did the list that you initially used, where did that come from? And then is there a way, like even someone like me can just walk through the neighborhoods and put the notification on doors, because the list that you guys have isn't getting to a lot of the business owners. So I think one of the things is just having people more knowledgeable, and then businesses as a whole, like us coming to you with, you giving us the overarching of it. Maybe the community, then the business owners as a whole in Chicago Avenue start to get together and have meetings to kind of brainstorm with a team and her team to figure out like what other things, and even with residents, what other things that we can contribute to make sure that project, as well as other projects on Chicago Avenue, are setting up to be prosperous and be around for a long time.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Not explicit in here, but I think the outreach to the business community has been a key element that we know we can do more with.
So do you think what do you think, since it's been an issue, like maybe one of the things we leave with is probably trying to understand what resolution we can come up with to help, so then the next meetings moving forward, we can just have more information, more cohesiveness with everyone. So people aren't like on the chat saying, I didn't know about this, or how did the decision come for, the RFP to be granted and things of that sort. We can kind of meet in tandem like that. Cause like yesterday, I was in the community and learned so much, and there was a bunch of business owners just getting together, and stuff like that doesn't happen in Austin. So I think the business owners getting together, if we, even like I said, you give me a sheet of paper or you tell me I honestly don't mind going through the neighborhoods and trying to put forth a bigger effort. So everybody is not coming on this call saying, well, why didn't I know about this? Why didn't I know? Like, let's move past that and figure out how do we do the resolution for it.
Ethan, this is Commissioner Cox. Ms. T, thank you for that comment, because I really do think that you shouldn't have to come to a roundtable to find out what's going on, given that there are dozens and dozens and dozens of businesses. One of the things that the city stood up, which we hope will help, is we now have corridor managers for each of the Invest Southwest corridors who are already embedded in the community and who know all of the businesses, and even beyond, they know the residents that patronize those businesses. So for Chicago Avenue, the corridor manager is AAA BNA. And when this whole thing started, we did not have them as a liaison. We now have them as a liaison as of this year. And I would think that Malcolm Crawford and the businesses that are a part of that now have a seat at the table and might be able to give us more ways of being in touch with those who are lifting up Chicago Avenue. So I think that's going to help. I hope that will help. And I know that AAA BNA is on this call as well.
Malcolm, I'm going to unmute you, but I'll actually go to the next question or comment from Tina. You should be able to unmute now.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm the newly appointed Executive Director of the Austin Chamber of Commerce. And I would like to say that there are quite a few business groups that are in Austin. And you just need to have access to the groups and need to know what the groups are. There are quite a few business groups that meet in Austin, and information can be relayed to quite a few businesses. But I do have a question regarding the city's portal with the businesses. I know that licensed businesses throughout Chicago, the name, the owner's name, the name of the business, and the address. But does the city have access to their email addresses?
This is for
and the
our
reason
business
why
affairs,
I'm
not
asking
DPD, but yeah.
I know, but the reason why I'm asking is if you have access to the business's email addresses, then you can simply send information out regarding the roundtable or the planning that's moving forward. If you have the business's email addresses, you can reach all of the businesses on the corridor and throughout the Austin community.
And Tina, Gerardo Garcia with DPD here. Does the Austin Chamber have an email listserv that they'd be willing to share with the city?
Yeah, we have a listserv, and we're more than happy, when moving forward, when you have information, if you could share it with us, that we could definitely get it out to our constituents. And there are, like I said, a number of business groups that meet: West Side Ministers Coalition, the 15th District Business, Police Business with the businesses, as you know, AAA BNA, the Austin Chamber of Commerce. I could go on and on. There are quite a few organizations that are in Austin that meets on a regular basis.
Yeah, we'd love to take you up on that offer, and frankly, anyone else on the roundtable that has email listservs. When we do distribute information, maybe there's a more targeted way to get it out to you folks to say this is for wide distribution, so that we can make sure that you know, we're tapping into your networks to reach as many people as possible.
Right. And then each month, the chamber has what's called the chamber check-in. It's on Facebook Live and also through Zoom. And we, you know, Arthena, she and her, the Alliance, United Alliance, will be on the chamber check-in in April. We would love to invite you, you all to also appear on our chamber check-in as well. And it's widely viewed, widely viewed.
Great. No, I think we'd be glad to participate.
All right, thank you.
So I don't see other hands. Let me know if the hand function isn't working and you can just respond in the chat, but I'll try to add some of these comments about outreach to the business community. Yeah, Mark Carter, you should be able to unmute now.
Yes, I'm just coming in to the call. And so this is concerning the Laramie State Bank, right?
Yep.
Okay, so here's the position that we're going to have to take as a community, because first and foremost, there shouldn't have been a competition for Black people to compete with other ethnic groups in our community. In Chinatown, Greektown, Little Italy, there are no competitions with Black people in those communities to go after projects. And when that happens, it seems as if we always lose. And so since that's the position that Department of Planning, headed by Maurice Cox and people at the mayor's office decided to do, then as a community, we're going to rise up against it. You know, too many times these projects come and either they tell us you're not in the union, you can't participate. You're not qualified on this level, so you can't participate. And so we're going to move to mass organizing and an anti move to stop this project with everything in us, because you all showed no respect to the community from the beginning anyway with this. You met with some people in the community, but that wasn't good enough. And then on top of that, in the end, in the final analysis, you took and brought a group into our community who's looking to invade our community. I hear the mayor too many times talking about the Black and brown agenda, but the brown is not talking about the brown and Black agenda. And so we have to stay focused on what's happening to us as Black people as we are gentrified out of our communities with the use of federal funds and city funds that we pay in taxes just like everybody else do. And so you're going to be met with opposition. We're going to do more protests. We're going to protest Oak Park housing in Oak Park. We're going to continue to protest the alderman. We're going to continue to protest Heartland Alliance. We want you all to know that you are not welcome because you don't welcome us to your communities. And don't have a misunderstanding or you haven't heard us speak the way we feel. So I'm going to say,
Mark, your connection is getting really choppy, unless I'm the only one.
We feel, now everybody may not feel that. Yeah, so can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we're going to organize in upwards of 50,000 people, and now we've made this a West Side wide movement, not just Austin. It reached the whole city. Again, why do we have to go off into a competition with other groups of people when in these plans that you have in these communities? Are there other groups who are allowed to go in competition with those ethnicities in their community the way that this has happened in the Black community? And this is a question that I'm asking now.
All right, thank you for all of that. Some of the initial comments. Do you know who who leads these two organizations that you're talking about. So some of the concerns are both Oak Park Regional Housing Center and Heartland Housing and Heartland Alliance have buildings and properties in Austin and have executive directors who are Black. This obviously is led by a mayor and commissioner who are Black. So the intention is not to not listen to Black people. Part of the RFP criteria was, again, connections to the community is a part of the evaluation process. You saw proposals that came in that did not have a strong connection to existing community groups or to Black people in Austin. And those were not received as well by the community and were not scored as well by the city internally. So the intention is never to exclude Black people. The city has never included Black people more than this, and it needs to do more, but it has not been like this before.
And I will just add that this is a long-term proposition for us, and so the city will just continue to show up and continue to create opportunities for Black and Brown community developers. So this is just the opening chapter, and we will continue to show up with the same goals of creating local wealth, building a pipeline of Black and Brown developers, investing in this community. So I appreciate, the sentiment. I am trying to create an atmosphere of abundance in our community, not of scarcity. So this is not a one and done deal. And so we will take the input and we will continue to show up. And every time we show up, we will show up with more opportunities for Black and Brown participants in this, because we need all hands on deck. So appreciate the sentiment. We'll continue to be right there with you and continue to create more opportunities so that our communities can stop thinking that we are operating from a climate of scarcity and start to pivot to an environment of abundance. But thank you for your comments.
Mr. Cox, let me say to you, culturally, it's clear you don't understand how things work in Chicago, all right? But you're gonna find out how it works, because I see now we have to protest you too, you know what I'm saying? Because you're not listening. And the arrogance that comes from you, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna be met with strong protests, all right? I'm telling you this to your face, because you're not listening, that because of these unions and because of these different developers, don't tell me just because a person is Black and they're executive director or whatever, when I'm looking at their projects, the community is not working. We don't give a damn because you have put a Black face up front to tell a white lie to us, you know what I'm saying, that we're gonna stand down. We're not gonna stand down, all right? Now, either you all be serious about inclusion and us developing our communities, or just tell us that every project that comes up, that we're not going to be included. You're not going to take Evelyn Diaz, who comes from Department of Planning, who has an inside track that's over at Heartland Alliance, and tell us that it was a fair process, you know? And I'm giving it to you straight, because some people are not going to give it to you straight, you know? We know this was an inside deal. We know we're not a fool.
You also have to be accurate if you're going to make statements, all right? So Juan, you were unmuted?
Yes. So I'm not sure what organization Mark Carter is. I'm speaking on behalf of me as a business owners and some of the ones that I've spoken to. Be it whatever the RFP that they've been selected, I think the common goal of all of us, I'm from the West Side and I live South now. Austin, born and raised, been there since 2013, my mom still stays there. I think what we do need to do as on the West Side is a lot of the complaining and saying this is inside jobs there are. And I think, Mr. Cox, what you need to know is that there's a lot, because you guys aren't talking directly to the business owners. I think that's why that narrative, a lot of it is that it's inside jobs. I mean, even with these meetings that you're having now, I'm a member of AAA BNA. There's people that are members of AAA BNA. We did not even know these members were these meetings were happening because we weren't the chosen ones. We're not chosen to come to these meetings. So I think what you have to know, that's been going on for years. So there's a lot of things that you all don't know. That's why you have this narrative of people thinking that you guys are just coming in and it's underhanded, because there have been favoritism that if you don't kiss the ring of the organization AAA BNA, that the information is not shared with you, the information is not given with you. And and Malcolm's on here, and I will speak candidly, because we need to grow the corridor, and it should not be one person's agenda. It needs to be everyone's agenda. And AAA BNA has been doing a better job of having meetings telling us information, but I think all organizations, whether it's the chamber, they need to do more, and that's like the Austin Chamber is doing. They're going to do more meetings of talking to us and with us, and not just giving us meetings where we're sitting down being told what's happening. I think we want and need to be a part of the process, and the process cannot be where there's favoritism there. And I think that's where the anger you hear from Mark Carter and people that are scared to talk, I think that's where you're getting it from.
No, that's very helpful, and that's very helpful. And we're going to be working with all of those groups that have contacts with others, so that we can set a pretty big table. I will say, when I mentioned AAA BNA, they were not the corridor managers, so they don't have any official role other than the role that they have historically played to get information. So there is more than one group out there, and I think that was part of one of the questions that Ethan asked. Who are those groups that would allow us to reach more and more people, so that we are not relying on one mechanism to communicate?
I can't be unmuted.
And so,
Unmuted.
so I know that Austin Chamber of Commerce is offering their network so that we can reach more people, so we can get genuinely the people who should be at the table. So thank you for that.
So let me just say, Malcolm Crawford from BNA, that we were not at that particular moment the corridor managers.
That's right.
And unfortunately, people seem to think that if a building comes up, if a blade of grass doesn't get cut, if anything happens on Chicago Avenue, that automatically Malcolm Crawford has to have something to do with it. But the truth of the matter is, there's more people in this community than Malcolm Crawford. So as we go, our membership is 40, 50 strong. And our members will stand up at any time and say what we've been doing and doing consistently before there was any money on Chicago Avenue, or before anybody was on Chicago Avenue, what we've been able to do. And so we will continue now that we are in the position as corridor manager, enhance the work that we've already been doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to get to, there's a number of raised hands, so you should be able to unmute now.
Hello, am I on?
Yep.
I'm Kiwana Bell. I work with Westside Health Authority. And I just like to say that Black-owned developments matter. You know, a lot of talk has been about Chicago Avenue, and I just like to say that a lot of the development that has happened on Chicago Avenue has come through Black-owned developers, Westside Health Authority, with no subsidy. 4800 West Chicago Avenue, 4802, 4835, 4922 through 4928 West Chicago Avenue, 5051 West Chicago Avenue, 5103 West Chicago Avenue, 5246 through 5250 West Chicago Avenue, 5242 West Chicago Avenue, and 5713 West Chicago Avenue, where we're bringing a Black-owned woman grocery store to Chicago Avenue. You know, all of our developments have to be done through bank loans, and finding equities outside of city subsidies to get this stuff done. And we tried to get this done through community input and through community action. We've been doing it for 30 years, but it is a slap in the face for organizations like us who've been on the ground, working, putting penny to penny, trying to get monies, the Emmett development on Madison Avenue, we bought with our own monies to try to get developments done. But when city subsidies come in, somehow we're not good enough. Somehow we are not strong enough or don't have the capacity to handle a multi-million-dollar project that is funded through city funds. But when we have to find the money, we're good enough. But when the monies come from the city, then it's given to outsiders who are new to Austin or who have very, I would say some ties, but not the strongest ties. What I would like to say to Commissioner Cox is that you have to cast a wider net. I understand you have a relationship with AAA BNA, you tout that relationship, and I've heard you talk about Darnell Shields and also Quality of Life Plan. We work with both of those groups, and we have been working with both of those groups to get Chicago Avenue developed. But there is a larger net, I think that's also been mentioned earlier through some of the other comments than those two groups as to what represents West Side and what represents development in Austin. And for us to have a lot of this work throughout Chicago Avenue corridor over the last 20 years, to not have more interaction with the Department of Planning, to me, is not community wealth building. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say you're doing a lot of work and we want to continue to support that and support that more going forward. This is one project. As we stated, there are 3 other sites we talked about and there are 10 other sites on the corridor. So there's a lot of opportunity for projects going forward. This is not intended to be the only thing that happens for the next 3 years. There's a lot of other opportunities and that's fully our intention. Darnell, I know you raised your hand and you were mentioned, then I'll get back to Crystal and Shirley, but.
Am I muted?
No, yeah, you're good.
Hey everybody. You know what? I sit here and I listen to what everybody is saying, and I just want to recognize and acknowledge, I don't think anyone that has spoken today has been wrong about what it is that they've expressed. And I'm speaking this to Commissioner Cox, I'm speaking this to Ethan, Gerardo, Jim, all of you guys at DPD. I really need you to understand that these folks that's on this call, this is Austin, this is the community. And I know there's a lot of divergence around who is in position to do what. People are speaking about Malcolm Crawford with Chicago Avenue and the Austin Quality of Life Plan with all the leaders that have been a part of that, the aldermen, businesses. Juan spoke eloquently about those things that's happening from the business owners. You got Tina on here, you got Ed, all these other folks. And speaking about, Morris Kiwana, WHA, and Athena, who is also a part of our community. Mark Carter too. I think while we all have different views, we are all still a community. And the thing that I just really need you all to understand at DPD, I know that there are processes in terms of the city where you felt like you needed to do an RFP. You needed to broker this out through that process to be able to kind of address this issue with this building, because you did take the time to come here in January 2020 to understand the why. You came, you took the time to understand the why. You had been listening, you've been reading the plans, working with the Chicago Corridor Plan, the Austin Quality of Life Plan, and I'll give you credit for that. And I think that was very much important. You did it in collaboration with the community. You also took the time to understand the what, because it came through in the Quality of Life Plan that Laramie State Bank building represented a symbol of the degradation of our community, and it represented a symbol of just how disinvested this community is. And so there is a lot of will and love to see that building come back to life. And you listened to that, and you did, in collaboration with the community, you recognized the what. But the thing that I try to employ to you throughout this whole process, the how. The how is just as important as the why, is just as important as the what. And with the how, you came up with this RP process, which, don't get me wrong, if that was the way that we had to go with it because of the time constraints, because of all of the different things with the building, help the community understand that. Bring the community in collaboration along with understanding why that was the case, so that now we're involved in the how, and in that RFP process where everyone was engaging. I'll give you kudos for bringing back to the community to have those RP participants present and even show the feedback that they all received and what the city's takeaways were. But the piece of it that would have closed the loop around the understanding that all of us need to be able to have around this project and around this whole effort was still missed, because you all didn't bring it back to this table to understand why the city, after their evaluation and after the community's feedback, saw fit to award the selection to Oak Park Regional Housing Center and Harlan Alliance. Now, I'm not saying that they're not qualified. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be doing the development. I'm not saying anything like that. What I'm saying is, if you work in collaboration with us to understand the why, if you work in collaboration with us to understand the what, why not fully work in collaboration with us to understand the how? Especially now that here we are, divided as a community on the cusp of having one of the biggest developments that we need to have happen in this community in the past 50 years. And yet everybody has this frog in their throat. Everybody has this gut-wrench feeling because you can't fully celebrate it because of the division that's been created through the process. We shouldn't be divided going into something as magnificent of an opportunity as this. But I just have to point out, it is that negligence to not bring it back to us, this table, to discuss how the city evaluated with the scoring system and what were those scores? What were those scores that each of these RP respondents received from the city side that validates the selection? Why weren't we shared? Why not share that with us? We're together. We're in partnership. That's what partnership looks like. That's transparency. And that's what everybody wants. They're not saying it, but that's what they wanted. And that's what throws it all off. I mean, I want to celebrate Athena and the work. The one thing, I know we all have different views, but the one thing I know we all agree on from everybody that spoke, we are not in disagreement in terms of commitment. Everyone that is on this roundtable that is Austin, for Austin, they are committed. You can't question anyone's commitment on here. And that's the thing that binds us. And that's the thing that we should really be trying to focus in on. But again, you have to pay homage to that and recognize that and bring it back to us. Show us that you honor that commitment that we have by you created this table. You created this table because you wanted to have a space where you could go deeper. So why stop there and not show us the rest and then just come back and say, here's the winner? I'm just saying that created it really created a contentious situation because folks didn't understand. Folks haven't had the opportunity to really understand. They really haven't had an opportunity to understand. And I'm gonna just say this. This is the last thing. The last thing is, again, I know we did an RFP process for this particular effort, but going forward, I have to tell you, I do agree with some of the things that was said, that Mark said. Like, we shouldn't have to compete for these developments. Like, there's enough infrastructure in this community in terms of the quality of life plan, leaders that have banded together to do that, the membership base of AAA BNA, all the supporters of WHA, Athena, and all of her partners that she's working with. and so forth. There's enough infrastructure in this community and the business owners and the residents that we can come together to actually decide on who should lead what project, who is best positioned to do it, and the partners will align. If we're all in agreement with that, it doesn't have to be a competition. I mean, we could do that on the front end. And I would implore you all to work with us to be able to facilitate that instead of creating opportunity for us to go at each other and become more divided. Because in this situation, there had to be a winner and there had to be a loser, but we shouldn't be losing in our own community. No one should be losing. And at the end of the day, the real loser is going to be the community, because if we all can't get on the same page around this, here is this awesome opportunity that we're losing sight on, because there were other projects. There's a multitude of different projects in this community that need city support. And so we shouldn't just be talking about this one project. We should be talking about how the city's going to get behind us to actually move all those projects forward, because that also creates division. I'm just saying, you have a lot of will in this community. You got a lot of commitment. You got a lot of people that want to see it change. I'm one of them. And I really just cannot continue to sit here like this and see us go at each other. This is our moment, and we should be taking advantage of it. And it shouldn't come down to some outside influence that is tearing us apart. And I want to know, what is the city going to do in terms of helping to amplify our unity? Because we can't even get into a community engagement process. I wouldn't want to put Athena through that. How you gonna engage the community and we're all torn? That is a very contentious space to be in, and I wouldn't want any development taking that on. We shouldn't have to.
Right. Well, you know, very, 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 very powerful words, and I couldn't agree with you more. That this is not the Chicago Prize, where you give someone the big jackpot and then everybody else has to scramble for the resources. Our intention was to create multiple opportunities for multiple players so that we can literally invite everyone to the table. And there was a reason why we looked at the entire corridor of Chicago Avenue. We didn't find one opportunity, we found 10 opportunities. And we are trying to create a climate where there are multiple players so that no one group feels they have to carry the load for revitalizing the corridor, because there are multiple players, and I think there's a role for everyone. Now, as you said, you know, this is one commission. It's incredibly symbolic because of the importance that the Laramie Bank has for this community. And I think we should share the evaluation process so that people understand that the survey was one component of multiple criteria, and we can share that. I mean, these proposals could be shared, and maybe we should have shared the entire proposal of all of the teams, and that's something that we've learned. And you know, and because these are not going to be the last time that we are going to put out opportunities, we can improve the process. So I agree with you. I can assure you the goal was not to invest in Austin and have groups that are working, should be working in a united front, become divided. And my take on it is, and I've said this before, our intention is to create an Austin where there is an abundance of opportunity, and that we don't have to pull each other down because we didn't get that opportunity. There is opportunity and more opportunity that will emerge from this. But it's important that we all understand that, so that if our opportunity did not appear in this first one, well, we know that there's a second, and there's a third, and there's a fourth, and that there's a place for everyone. So that's the commitment that I can make to you, Darnell, as well as showing our evaluation process, if that is something that the community feels would help to kind of heal some of the divisions as a result of the outcome of this first opportunity.
I think I have to unmute you.
Hi, this is Crystal Dyer at Gone Again Travel and Tours. I have a brick and mortar store on the 5900 block, and that will celebrate 5 years this year in Austin on that block. But I started my business 22 years ago from my house at 642 North Lockwood in this same community. And I live around the corner from my shop now, and so I've seen a lot of things in 35 years in Austin, okay, or longer, because I've been over here since 85. Okay, so, I want to say I commend the city at this point for the project and the selection process, because this is about capacity to do this type of project. Every project is not every person that put in an RFP, as we saw from some of the candidates who, I was on the meetings and I saw, aldermen speak up and, and disqualified people on the call, okay, that were not qualified for the project. And so, I could see, for myself being a business owner, I've seen a lot of things, being, on this block and non-commitment by, AAA, BNA, but this ain't about them. Okay, this is about, we have a larger net now. We have the Austin Chamber revamp, that's stronger and bigger and more transparency to work along with, the city and all the businesses in Austin. And so it's just not, somebody got 50 members here or 25 there. This is about a large net at this point, where every business owner in Austin, just not our corridor, will now be engaged, will be on these type of meetings, like the gentleman was stating that there's other projects coming down the pipeline that already have been identified. Okay, let's shake hands, everybody, on the progress. 50 years, it's been 50 plus years of backroom deals in our community. Okay, come on now, let's get over it at this point. Let's move forward to the day to today. Okay, let's shake hands, and because see, that's why we had this 50 years of non-investment. Yeah, okay, city, whoever, everybody had a part in it. Okay, let's stop at this point, is crying over spilled milk, and let's get engaged and say, okay, what are we going to do today and tomorrow? Because as I can see, that's a done deal. Okay, we can move forward together. We can kumbaya and say, okay, great. Now how do we push or help the city, get these other RFPs done, get other people who had gave RFPs for the bank building, how do they go ahead and possibly, tweak their proposal so they can be qualified for the next proposal. Okay. And so that's all I got to say.
So
thank you.
So there is a saying that Don't let your good be evil spoken of. And so we've been on Chicago Avenue for many, many years doing the work and willing to work with anybody. But the level of hate and disdain that exists, if we are saying that those things are truly ready to be dealt with, and it truly is a kumbaya moment, then the truth has to be the truth, not just for yourself, but for everybody. And so what we can easily do, if this truly is a kumbaya moment, and there is an opportunity to tell the truth and work together, then I'm all in for that. But it has to be now, as it has been spoken, that this is the truth, and we are willing to address the truth and work together, then I can guarantee you that 50 members and 50 people who have been working together will not let our good be evil spoken of. I will say that I do agree with Darnell. Darnell, what you said was very passionate. It was a beautiful statement that really touched me. And I'm all in with you, and we stand together, and we will do everything within our power to help move this needle forward. So I just like to say again, and I just like to say again, that if this truly is a kumbaya moment, Crystal, and you are seriously serious about working together and not with the intent on anything else, then we will gladly work with you. Thank you.
I know it's 1 o'clock right now, so I want to be sensitive to people's time and not go over a lot. I want to just remind everyone, a part of this is, yeah, we'll continue this process, but there are other projects on Chicago Avenue, and in Austin more generally. There's CDOT projects coming up that will need review and input. So going forward, we also want to make sure that we're using the roundtable for everything else going on in the community, not just this. Not that we also have to have a thorough process for this too. But with that, thank you all for your time. I don't want to keep everyone really long. Just see that this will be posted on YouTube right after this. You can contact dpd@cityofchicago.org for any more comments. And we'll just keep going. There'll be a lot of outreach to all of you who spoke and all the organizations and people who have emailed us thus far. Thank you, Evan, for your time. I know it's hard to fit into an hour, but thank you all.
Thank you.